Hi, friends. Welcome to Wine, Waits, and Crafty Creates. If this is your first time joining us, my name is Rebecca, and I am excited to have you here. Today, I am bringing you 4 Christmas DIYs. So let's go ahead and jump right in. Okay, so the first DIY that we are going to start with is with this adorable sled that I picked up from the Dollar Tree. We are going to transform this, I think, into something even more adorable. So, as you can tell by looking at it, I had already kind of lightly sanded this down. The snowman one did not take very much sanding. They do have a Santa Claus sled out there. If you have that one, it does take a little bit more sanding, but it can be done the same. It doesn't matter which one you have if you want to do this project. So take it all apart. It's pretty simple, comes apart pretty easily. And then I have these 5-gallon paint sticks that I picked up from Walmart. It comes in a pack of 3. You're only going to need 2 of them. And we are going to cut them down to 16 inches. Now, you're going to see that I am actually going to be using my razor. Sure, there are some easier methods out there, but without using any saws or any fancy cutters, you can easily grab a box cutter and cut it as well. And then I'm just going to sand the bottom down to make sure my edges are as smooth as possible. So now we are going to take my Waverly chalk paint in the color truffle, and we are going to give them a good painting on the front and back. It will only take 1 coat. I am also going to be painting the back of both pieces of the front of the sled. Now, I am doing this to start. I will say at the end, you will see I had to go back in and touch up a couple spots. So you don't really need to do this until the very end. I wasn't sure if I'd have a difficult time painting it once I had the front done, but really, I don't think it would have been that difficult. So whether you want to do it beforehand or after, either way, I wanted it to have a nice finished look. So I did make sure that the backside was covered as well. I didn't worry too much about where I had pulled off the 2 little back pieces because I know I'm going to be replacing that and it'll be covered as well. And then for the front, I am taking my chalk paint in the color plaster, and I am just going to give both pieces a couple good coats of this. It did take about 2 coats to make sure it was fully covered. So once that is all dry, I am going to take that same truffle paint and I am just going to distress the edges of it a little bit. I mean, it's a sled, it's outside, right? It's been used in the snow and or maybe even got a little bit dirty. So we just want it to be a little distressed, make it look a little bit more realistic. Now you'll notice I don't distress things very much. So you may want to do it a little bit more than what I am. You may want to do it a little bit less. You may not want to distress it at all. Customize it to be exactly the way you would prefer. So next we are going to take this gift bag that I also got at the Dollar Tree, and we are going to cut out this red truck. The thing I love about working with gift bags is you can actually get 2 DIYs out of 1 gift bag because you have the front and back. Once I have it cut out in the square to make it a little bit easier, then I'll cut out closer around the edges of the truck. So the next thing we are going to do is just use some Mod Podge to stick this truck right in place on the sled in the center of the bottom, exactly where I want it. This is not a very thin gift bag. It's actually kind of thick, so Mod Podge works perfectly on it. Just make sure you do go around, get all the bubbles pushed out, and make sure that you have the edges pushed down because sometimes when it is a little bit thicker, it does want to pop up. And then I am just going to add a little bit more distressing along the bottom and really try to get around the tires and really help that area all blend in a little bit better. I am then going to add a layer of Mod Podge once everything else was able to dry. I'm going to add it over the top of it all so that way it will really make sure this is held down and is not going anywhere. Then I have this Merry Christmas that I printed off on my Cricut, and I am going to place it right above the red truck on the sled. Now we're getting to the fun part because I feel like it really comes together when we start to put the pieces all back together. So I'm going to take those two painter's sticks that we cut and I'm going to use some E6000 and some hot glue. I really want these to last and have a permanent hold, so that's where the E6000 will come into play. But I want there to be a quick hold so that way I can continue to finish the product. So that's why I also used the super glue. And I'm really going to place them pretty much exactly where I took the old ones off. I'm just going to have them on the thin side versus laying flat so that way they'll have more dimension. I also did decide to take two Jenga blocks and place them on the back just for some additional support. I don't want something happening that will cause them to break off. I have four kids, two cats, and two dogs. So let me tell you, anything is possible. And then here I am just going to tie a knot in this nautical rope that I have from the Dollar Tree, and I'm going to cut it off. I'm going to create two of them. I'm basically cutting off the two little knot parts, and then I'll have the additional nautical rope that we'll use on the sled as well. So the first thing we need to do though is now we need to glue the little top part to the sled. So again, I'm just going to use some E6000 and some super glue so that way it will stay permanently, but also dry quick enough so that way I can get this all put together. Then we will make sure we get our nautical rope attached. So we're going to glue those two little knots we cut off here on the front of the sled. It's going to make it look like we drilled a hole and put it through, when in reality we didn't. It's fake. This is an awesome trick that I actually learned from someone else. I can't remember if it was from a little bit of Common Crazy or Crafts by Caitlin. It was one of them too, I'm pretty sure. But it's a great little trick without having to drill a hole. And I'm not a fan of having to go out and get the power tools. I don't know why, but I'm just not. And then I'm just adding a little bit more hot glue just for some further reinforcement. And then the last finishing touch is I'm just making a little standard bow out of this adorable red truck ribbon that I believe I got at Dollar General. Dollar General nailed it on their holiday ribbon this year. I just feel like they had the best ribbon. And this is the final touch, and I feel like this is the perfect final touch. I love this little sled. It is so cute. And now I am so very excited to tell you that I am taking part in Heidi Sonboul's Friend Friday Hop. I am super excited about this. There's some amazing people that are in this little hop, and I have a link to the next video that comes after me in my drop down box below. So make sure you go to the next video, and then each video links to the next one in our little hop. Make sure you watch each video and comment on each video to be entered in a chance to win this amazing set of gift cards. This would be amazing to win right at Christmas time. So make sure you take advantage of the full crafter's circle, and let's go ahead and jump right into DIY number 2. So I have these wreaths that I picked up at the Dollar Tree, and we're just going to take one of them and we are going to paint it white. Well, I'm going to be painting it in my Waverly chalk paint in the color plaster, which was the closest I had to white at the time. And you're just going to paint it the best you can. I tried to get in a lot of those little holes, but it doesn't need to be full coverage. And it's probably not going to be unless you took it outside and wanted to spray it with white spray paint. So I am going to make sure I paint the front and the back of it the best that I can. Then I'm going to take an assortment of the styrofoam, I think that's what they are, these little ball packs that I got from the Dollar Tree. I did end up using just one bag of the large because I didn't use too many of those, 4 of the medium, and 5 of the small. And I think I still had a couple random ones left over. So you can obviously make this wreath as full as you want, or you don't have to make it as full as I did. It's all personal preference, but I did want to try to make mine as full as possible. And what I am doing is I'm just going to go around and hot glue them all to the wreath. You do have to use a decent amount of hot glue, and you have to kind of hold them in place. So if you are going to go make this wreath, just be patient, sit and put on some YouTube videos and hold them in place until they dry a little bit, and so that way they have a good hold and they don't fall off. So I have this adorable little Santa head sign, and I thought it would look ridiculously cute on this. Altogether, this just made a very cute wreath. And I'm going to kind of stand it up, make sure I see it in place exactly where I want it to go, where I think it will look good with my little snow. And I am going to place a lot of hot glue to hold it in place. And after I have the hot glue on there, then I'm actually going to just take a piece of ribbon and I am going to hot glue it to the little sign as well, and then go around the wreath and push it in place. This is just going to make sure it stays extra secure and it don't fall off, especially if it is going to be on the door and it's going to be possibly having a lot of temperature changes and adjustments. I didn't want it to fall off and go anywhere. And y'all, this was honestly as simple as that. And I think it is so cute. I love the way it looks like little snowballs with the snowman. I just think it's adorable. And my third DIY is actually probably going to be even easier. So I have this little space here in my entryway that just seemed like it was missing something. I felt like I needed a little tree here. And I had this little flocked tree that I had picked up from Target, but I did not like it. It just didn't go well there. I needed a solid green tree. So I took one of the trees that I had picked up from the Dollar Tree, only we are going to work on it to make it a little bit better. Number one, we're going to make it the size that we need, and we're going to make it fuller. So clip off the top branch that is on the little tree, and I took it and then I wrapped it around underneath those other little top branches that are at the top just to fill it in and make it a little thicker right there at the top. And then I have this little pack of I guess, additional little branches that you can get from the Dollar Tree. And it comes, I think, with 10 of them. And some of them, like towards the top of the tree, I clipped them in half. So I was actually getting two and wrapping them around. And we're just going to go around the whole tree, filling in any of those empty spots to make it as full as possible. Y'all, now I realized I needed this tree when I was decorating for Christmas. So, yes, you will see I am wearing elf pajama bottoms because, again, I was decorating early on a Saturday morning for Christmas. And I was like, told my son, grab my camera because this DIY will probably benefit a lot of people. Because how many times do you need something and you don't want to run to the store and get it, but you may have one of these little Dollar Tree trees on hand, and you know how expensive sometimes these little decorative trees can be? It's ridiculous. So we're going to make one for just a couple bucks. And I really filled in this tree, making it nice and thick. And then I have this little piece of foam left over, probably from an old floral craft, and I just kind of stuck the base of the tree in it to give it a little bit of support. And then I have this red and black fabric square that I picked up from the Dollar Tree right when they started to get some of their Christmas stuff out. But you can get this anywhere from Dollar Tree to Walmart to Joann Fabrics. And I cut myself out a square that I would need to go around the base. And then I realized I needed something to really fill up the base a little bit more to make it sturdier. The foam just wasn't enough. So I grabbed some packing paper. You can truly use anything. And it just really helped fill it up, give it the full look, and it gave it more stability, made it sturdier. And I just wrapped my fabric right around that. Then I'm just taking my thin twine that I have from the Dollar Tree, and I am going to wrap it around the top of the little fabric area, just holding it in place so that way it can be a nice, pretty base for my new tree. It worked out perfect and was exactly what I needed in this little space. Our final DIY, we are going to be using this page from the Dollar Tree calendar and this little ornament. And we are going to take the little metal piece at the top off, and we're just going to flip it over so that way we don't have to worry about any sanding, priming, anything of that nature. We're just going to flip it around because we can always cover that back side with scrapbook paper later. And I am going to take this page and I'm going to kind of just form it around where I want it to be with my hand and kind of just push it down. These calendar pages are pretty thin, so I've discovered I've done so many projects with them that Mod Podge can be very difficult because they're thin, they want to tear, they want to bubble up. It just works a lot easier to use the glue stick, which is what you'll see that I used here. Once it was dry, then I just flipped it around, used my X-Acto knife, and I just cut around the edges. It was super easy. This is actually a pretty easy DIY to begin with. And I am going to glue the metal piece right back on to the top where it would have been on the little ornament. You want to see some other DIYs I've done from the most popular Dollar Tree calendars? I did a whole video on that, and I will have it linked in the description box below as well. So you can go check that video out. And hopefully you have subscribed already, so you'll see all the new ones I will have coming out in the upcoming weeks. So I am just going to take a little bit of paint here. It looks much brighter in the video than it actually was in person. It actually blends in really well with the green that is on this page. And then I just gave the edges a very light sanding. It was a really light sanding. And then I am going to take the floral and ribbon that I picked up from Walmart, and I am going to add just a couple final little finishing touches here. I cut a couple of the floral picks off small enough to where they'll fit just in place here, and I'm just going to hot glue them in place. Do let me know what your favorite DIY was today. I always love hearing which one is your favorite because sometimes it's completely different than the one that was my favorite, and I just enjoy knowing that. And lastly, I'm just going to tie a simple bow here. I don't even know what the exact term for it is, but just really a simple bow like you would tie in your shoelace. And just going to fit it in place. I'm going to make sure it's the perfect size that we need here. Cut the ends off, and I'm going to glue it right in place. Now I'm actually positioning my ribbon here exactly the way I want to have it in place. And I don't want it to move. I want it to stay there so that way you can see the wording on the sign, and I just want it to keep that perfect form, that perfect look. So don't ever hesitate if you don't want your ribbon to move, you don't want it to cover something, to just put a little dab of glue and it'll stay exactly where you want it to, and it'll keep that perfect ribbon form that you like to see sometimes on bows. And I realized one side was a little bit longer than the other here. So I'm just trimming it up and this is done. It's perfect. I love it. It's one of my favorite DIYs from the calendars. So thanks for stopping by. If this was your first time making your way to my channel, I hope you've already subscribed and will stick around a while. I can't wait for you to join me again. Have a great weekend, everyone. Bye.